Check and make sure. We've been having technical difficulties if we're live and you're watching this right now. We've started twice already. All right, we're on? Yes? No?
I think so. Yeah, we're live.
Okay, so sorry about all that. We've been trying to figure out if we're actually on or not. So I want to welcome you to the Hungry Hearts Friday Night Bible Study. This has turned out to be a pretty good deal. So for those of you watching on Rev Media, I hope it is, and I hope it's a good part of your Erev Shabbat, even though I know now that sundown's later, it's not on Shabbat yet, but hey, right? I don't know about you, but stopping a little early doesn't hurt my feelings on Friday. I kind of used to like an easy Friday, you know, and that was a good deal. So I've been talking about marriage, and so we're going to kind of clean that up and finish it up, and then I've got a couple other issues I want to hit, and then we're going to jump into prophecy. Now, Cindy Lifford had got me a real nice poster, and I couldn't find it with all the moves and stuff, no telling where it is. But anyway, I want to talk about a little bit about marriage some more. And we got some singles who might be interested. We got some marrieds who most definitely need to pay attention. Of course, that includes me and Lenise too, right? So, so she's telling me to pay attention. I'm gonna pay. I got something to pay attention. Get a hold of one of these trumpets. Gonna be some Neeson Bill show going on here in a minute. I hope you got some popcorn. But anyway, not all kidding aside. You know, there's a legal term in the business world called the meeting of the minds. It's used a lot in real estate. And so if there's not a meeting of the minds, the contract is not valid. Now, most of us did not get married with a contract. In Hebrew, it's the word ketubah, the marriage contract, and we blew it. Let's just all be square. Those of us who got the normal American marriage, we blew it. It's not okay. We did not have a meeting of the minds, and so it's no wonder that we still don't have a meeting of the minds. Our minds don't meet because we never stopped to make them meet. Okay, this is the number one source of problem in marriages. We're talking apples and oranges in every conversation. We're never on the same page. And if you're not on the same page, you don't have the meeting of the minds, how are you ever going to make anything work? This doesn't work in any aspect of our lives, but for some reason we think that in marriage, because we're male and female, that's going to work out. Well, male and female is another wrinkle to make it work out less if you don't have a meeting of the minds. Electricity and water. That's just Bill and Lenise. That had nothing to do with male and female. Let's go to 1 Peter 3. First Peter, huh? Fighting like cats and worms. There you go. Now, Lenise and her family, you know, the dogs would birth the kitties, right? In my neighborhood, the dogs ate the kitties. I say fight like cats and dogs, and she goes, cats and dogs don't fight. I'm like, you're kidding me. I've watched many a dog eat a cat live in front of all the kids. All right, 1 Peter 3, verse 7. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives and treat them with respect as the weaker partner and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so nothing will hinder your prayers. They're supposed to be partners. You're supposed to be partners. Okay, so if you're sizing up a prospect, then you want to consider, do we have the meeting of the minds so that we can be partners? Partners. You're going to be partners. When you're married, you got to realize there's got to be a meeting of the minds. We're partners. Neither partner gets to make unilateral decisions. Oh, this is the way it's going to be. You just broke your covenant. All right, I'm not going to go to Malachi, but you can look up Malachi, what happens to you if you break your vows. It's not happy. What did he say in Malachi? The messenger's not going to be happy if you fail to pay your vows. So nobody gets to just say, I'm making a unilateral decision for us. You got to come to a meeting of the minds. And I brought the kitchen up many, many times because it was a great example. Until there was a meeting of the minds, nothing happened. Now, White Lightning Cleaning Service is a partnership of Lenise and myself. It's my third. I've had 3 partnerships. In the first partnership, with a great guy by the name of Dan Miley, fantastic partner. We would come to a meeting of the minds, and then both of us attacked it with ferocity. My middle partner, we never had a meeting of the minds. No matter what I was talking about, he was talking about something totally irrelevant and off the wall. So there was never a meeting of the minds. That partnership failed spectacularly. With Lanice and I, it may take us a minute to get to the meeting of the minds, but we do get there, and then we make it happen, and it works out well. So nobody can just decide, well, I'm just gonna do what I want. You can't do that. You're married. If you don't want to, this phone, I'm telling you, this phone is on drugs. Needs to just say no. If there's not a meeting of the minds, you just can't go forward with anything. I don't care what it is or how big or how small, unless you've agreed that, if I send Lanice to go buy groceries, we've agreed that whatever she buys, that's a meeting of the minds. If she sends me down to do banking, we've agreed that's a meeting of the mind, go down and take care of it, right? So unless you've agreed to delegate to one partner or another, you have to talk it out until you come to a decision. So if you're sizing up a marriage partner, you need to think about that. Is this a person with whom I can get along? Is this a person with whom I can sit down and work it out? When we're talking, right, see, everybody, all these B movies from the 60s, dating is some kind of glamorized little thing of trifles and nothing. If you're going to date somebody, the most important thing you got to come up with and determine in your mind is, are we talking apples and apples and oranges and oranges? Because if we're having a conversation with a prospect and you're not on the same wavelength, that doesn't need to go any further. Because you don't have the meeting of the minds. You've got to be able to have that meeting of the minds. Let's go to Colossians chapter 3. And this is going to segue. I've got a couple more verses, and we're going to segue right on into, because we had one particular marriage blow completely up in here, and it's tarred a lot of folks. And at no point was there a meeting of the minds. Now, I'm not, here's the problem with Pastor Bill. I'll save that for later. We'll get in it in a minute. All right. Colossians 3. I had too many rabbi trails. Wives, submit to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Okay. All right. Ladies have freedom, and gentlemen have freedom. Neither one is lord over the other. Y'all got to understand this. So the man can't tell the woman, this is the way it's going to be, and the wife can't tell the man, this is the way it's going to be. Now, I know this is submit to your husbands. There's problems in the Greek here, and I'm not going to break all that down. We did it in Female Freedom, and there was another one, and you told me the title of that a little bit ago. But I've got 2 messages up on YouTube to break this down for you in more detail. Kelly Mack's got a great book called The Woman Question, and he breaks it down in a lot more detail and shows the problems in the Greek. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. So a lot of people say that the wife is the helpmeet, and that's from the old King James, the helpmeet. I hate that. A man come in here and tell me that my wife, or I'm looking for a helpmeet, I already know there can be no meeting with his mind. There can be no meeting with his mind. The Hebrew for that means oppose you to your face. I do not know any man that wants a woman to oppose him to his face. So when he comes in and says, help me, he's saying, I want a wife I can dominate, but the Hebrew is saying, I'm going to give you a wife that's going to oppose you to your face. It's not a meeting of the minds, and that meeting is not possible. Husbands, love your wives and don't be harsh with them. So what are we taught? We're taught that we're supposed to be benevolent dictators. No, we're supposed to be partners together in the heirs together in the grace of life. So we're supposed to come to that meeting of the minds. And I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I'm telling you this is a very hard concept for a lot of people to grasp, both men and women. Because I've had a whole rash of women that are going to tell their husbands how it's going to be, and you can't do that. You've got to sit down and come to a meeting of the minds. No meeting, no action. I can't emphasize it enough. No meeting, no action. Each partner has the right to say no, and everything stops until y'all get it together. You got to understand that. It's very important. All right. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. Let's go now to Ephesians 5. I think Bobby brought this up in fellowship before we even got here. And so this passage is used, Ephesians 5. I'm not going to start in verse 22. In verse 22 it says, wives, submit to your husbands, and the wording in the Greek is military level submission. Well, that's not what God has in mind at all, because over and over and over again he says that's not what he has in mind. Then he tells you this is about Christ and the church. We can militarily submit to Jesus at all times for all things, but we can't militarily submit to each other. Why? Because we're not Jesus. Any questions? We're going to burn a sin list. Now, if you think you're Jesus, I'm going to let Miss Niece read it out loud for you, because that'll cure it real quick. That'll cure it real quick. All right, but I want to come down to verse 33. Yeah, verse 33. Each of you must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Okay, I've never seen a man love his wife like he loves himself. Okay, not once, not even me. So, right, so I mean that just leaves everybody where you got to be. All right, now I want to go to 1 Corinthians 7. 1 Corinthians 7, we're going to keep it G here, even though this is a decidedly PG passage. Keeping it G, baby, keeping it G. 1 Corinthians 7, verse 3. The husband's got to fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. In the same way, the husband's body does not belong to him alone, but also to his wife. Do not deprive each other except by, what does that say? Mutual consent. Well, let's just take this to the house. Nothing can happen in a marriage without mutual consent. Doesn't matter what it is. What car you buy, mutual consent. And I have a little proviso there, a little exception to that rule, that we're only going to get Hondas by mutual consent, forced or otherwise. Now, some of you know me, you know already this. Lenise wants to get a Jaguar. And I told her she can get that Jaguar on her own money, on her own time, and I'm not fixing it. I'm not even going to gas it or wash it. So you get the Jaguar, that's fine. You on your own. The only people I know that are happy with their Jaguar are doctors who have lots of money to maintain them. As a matter of fact, the one doctor was talking about one of his exotic cars, and one of my workers brought up the new Corvette, and he goes, my maintenance costs more than that. I'm like, hey, I'm not in that league, man. The reason I drive Honda is because they're cheap. Let's get right down to brass tacks. They're good on gas, they're easy to fix, and it's cheap. That's why I drive what I drive. I'm a poor boy. I can't afford to be driving all the exotic cars like y'all be driving all them Chevys and Fords and all that stuff. I can't afford all that, man. Y'all big spenders, man. Yeah, how much it costs to gas that thing up? Talk to me now, right? Oh, yeah, talk to me now. How much it costs to gas? Yeah, I'm only putting $40 of gas up my car with this high gas prices. And I ain't happy about it. It was only $20 a little bit ago. I am preaching now. All right, 1 John 4. So everybody thinks I'm crazy. Like, I'm very pro-American. I'll have you know my Accord was manufactured in Maryville, Ohio. I can't afford driving American cars. That's some tall dollar stuff right there, man. Yeah, look at the gas you got to put in that monster. Yeah. 1 John. 1 John 4. Now, I know we covered this verse again, but, you know, this is a powerful little passage here, and this applies to so many aspects of your life, and it applies so much more to the husband and wife relationship. And I'm just going to tell you, in all the counseling I've done, this is the major thing lacking. 1 John 4, verse 19. We love because he first loved us. So we were stinkers. Jesus came to you while you were a stinker, wallowing in your own filth. Say, hey, you. You're like, oh, no, I love this stuff. Now, we used to have some sayings back in the day about, you know what, eating grins and all that. And so we used to love wallowing in our own filth, and we're just happy in there. And he said, I'm calling you out. I'm going to wash you up. I'm going to clean you. And so that's why it talks about the sow is washed to return to the mud, and the dog returns to eat its own vomit. Because once you've been cleaned up and you go back, that's exactly what's going on. But the problem is we don't go back all at once. We go back in stages. Well, I'm all washed up, but this one little thing over here, I'm holding on to it. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. So if anyone says, I love God, yet hates his brother, he's a liar. Okay, well, we're talking about just brethren in the church. What about your spouse? What about the person you sleep in the same bed? If you can't love them, how are you loving God? You see what I'm saying? I mean, some of this stuff gets so basic. For anyone who does not love his brother who he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. How about if you can't love your spouse with whom you performed your marital duties? How are you going to love the only God that you cannot see? You can't. It's just real simple. So it gets down to brass tacks. Mutual consent, the meeting of the minds. We have to have that love for each other, and that love for each other should allow us to come to that meeting of the minds and mutual consent. All right. So, segue right on into Pastor Bill's deputy dog. Okay, Pastor Bill's deputy dog. So stuff goes wrong in here. Guess who gets the unfun job of cleaning it up? That's why I ask sometimes, anybody want to be Pastor Bill for a week? And everybody gives me the same answer. I've never seen such emphatic no's in my life. You want to be Pastor Bill for a week? Oh, no. Okay, being deputy dog is not fun. It's not fun. Oh. So, we had a marriage blow up in here, and it got tarred all over the church. Okay, well, here's how this goes. I have all the information, and 90% of it's in confidence. So my reputation has been tarred horribly, and the only way to exonerate myself is to betray the confidence. All right, I'll tell you what I told Joe Perry this afternoon. My integrity is more important to me than my reputation.
Preach it.
I can get my reputation back, but you can only get your reputation, you only get your integrity one time.
Come on.
So guess what? I'm not going to betray confidence, even though everybody's going to think I'm a jerk. Okay. That's what I say sometimes. All right, if you think Pastor Bill's a jerk, that's great. Take a number. It's a long line. Don't even bother. You're never getting served. That line goes forever. Forever. So let's go with some stuff. Since we're in 1 John already, let's go to 3 John. I'm not going to betray the confidence. And I'm going to tell you something else. I've counseled probably with 20 couples, and they tell me all their inside dirt. I'm never betraying that confidence. You hear what I'm saying? I'm never betraying that confidence. So if you want to have a meeting with me about somebody else's marriage, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to have a meeting unless you're involved, unless this couple whipped you outside, then we'll talk. But I mean, if you're not involved in this couple, I'm not betraying their private confidence and telling you all their stuff. Man, are you crazy? All right, 3 John, verses 9 and 10. I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will have nothing to do with us. So if I come, I will call attention to what he's doing, gossiping maliciously about us. Not satisfied with that, he refuses to welcome the brothers. He also stops those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. This is not new, by the way, to attack the real... This is the Apostle John. He laid on Jesus during Passover, and they put him out of the church. This is not new. This has been going on for the true men of God the whole time. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think John compromised his integrity?
No.
Oh, no, he didn't. Did he care about getting put out of the church? No. He gathered up those who were loyal, and he marched on. And look, you only got to flip 2 pages, and what do you come to? The book of Revelation. Oh, tell me, was it worth it? Tell me, was it worth it? Yeah, it was worth it. I'm holding my integrity. I'm not giving up anything. 1 Peter 5. 1 Peter 5. But you know, the Lord is good to me. He tells me everything. And so a lot of, just because I don't go around and tell you what the Lord told me, right? I got stuff on all kind of people. They run around doing stuff. And just because I don't say nothing doesn't mean that I don't know. Just because I don't put you on blast, I mean, you know what? I try to give everybody time to repent. Right? Okay, I mean, I'm not going to go there, but in Ecclesiastes it says, don't listen to every destructive word you hear about yourself, because you know you've said some of those yourself. Sometimes people just blowing off a little steam. You got to give them time. Okay, all right. So when you see me take an action with somebody, you need to have a little sense and go, self, if Shults took an action when he knew about this other stuff and did nothing, maybe it had to be done. You think maybe? Just a little bit? All right, 1 Peter 5 and verse 1. To the elders among you I appeal as a fellow elder, a witness of Jesus' sufferings, and one who will also share in the glory to be revealed. Ooh, going to share that glory. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, serving as overseers, not because you must, but because you're willing. Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of times I'm not really willing. There's a lot of times I got to do things I don't want to do, and say things I don't want to say, and be in places I don't want to be, and I'm not willing. I just tell you right now, okay, I'm not always willing to have to rebuke somebody when they've been ugly. But I do it. Not greedy for money. You know, I just gave out the annual report. Did you see any salaries in that thing? Of course not. I work for free. How many hours a week? How many hours a week? I don't know. I probably work full time. 2 a day, maybe. On a good day, 2 hours a day. So, you know, when y'all go home and you have all that time off, I don't get that. So don't waste your time off. You got time off at home? Man, make good use of it. Because I don't get that. Well, spend a little time with each other. Hold hands. Walk around the neighborhood. Have some adult beverages. Do something valuable if you're married and you got time off. Because I don't get that.
Walk around the neighborhood, hold hands, and be adult.
But eager to serve, not lording it over. I thought the adult beverages, as many as you can, sounded better. We're kidding. We are kidding. We are kidding. We're not drunks up in here. Not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. Young men, not necessarily in age, young men in the faith, in the same way be submissive to those who are older. Why? Because we've been in it longer, we can help you. So you come in, you're new, you want to tell us everything, that's great, but remember, we've been here longer, we know more. Learn. Learn while you have it, because you won't always have it. Let's go back a couple pages to Titus, on the other side of Hebrews. I mean, you just don't know how long you got. And the reason I say that is, we're going to get into some heavier stuff in this little piece, and you got to understand that a lot of people have come through Hungry Hearts. Maybe 400 people have come through Hungry Hearts. Why didn't they stay? Well, I tell y'all all the time why they didn't stay, because I'm hoping that y'all will be able to overcome and stay. First of all, they don't put a root down in the Torah. Second of all, they don't want to get Holy Ghost baptized. Third, they're addicted to the internet. So like I said, the same internet that brings you here is the same internet that will wash you right on back out. So the tide brings you in, and the tide will bring you out. Don't do that. Don't do that, because there's too much stuff out there now, right? 15 years ago it was deadly. Now it's like fentanyl. So just don't do it. So Titus 1 and verse 14. Pay no attention to Jewish myths or the commands of those who reject the truth. Okay, so people tell me all the time, well, Pastor, I'm listening to this one, Pastor, I'm listening to that one. Who are these people? What do you know about them? Do you know their personal integrity? Do you know them personally? Are they keeping God's laws and commandments? Okay, there's a lot of really famous evangelists, some in the Messianic world who are growing in this. They're coming along. There's others that are just outright frauds. Okay, watching one on TV the other night because he was making news. Outright fraud, saying all kind of fraudulent things. They just make it up out of whole cloth. Don't even bother. Don't even bother. All right. Now we do some Jewish things, and people would say, "Oh, those are Jewish myths." We do the Hebrew prayers that Jesus said. Jesus was an observant Jew in his time, and we say the same prayers he said. We didn't go any further than that, by the way. Did you notice that?
Right.
And we met in the basement of a Jewish temple for years. I went and learned. I didn't take their classes and become a member, but I mean, I learned from my friends there what Judaism consists of. And we were led to add the prayers Jesus prayed. Right? All right. Titus 3, verse 9. Avoid foolish controversies and genealogies and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these are unprofitable and useless. Warn a divisive person once and then warn him a second time. After that, nothing to do with him. You can be sure that that person is warped and sinful. They're self-condemned. All right? So my job as deputy dog is to hold the doctrine sound. And aren't you ever so glad I've done it? Because you wouldn't have this body of doctrine. The churches from which I came and got this doctrine no longer hold it. Lenise and I were there in January of 1995 when the Worldwide Church of God abandoned the key tenets of the faith. They abandoned all of them, by the way. Then we were in the United Church of God, which has held them better than the other splits, but they've already given up stuff like the place of safety. They've already given it up. All right? So even they couldn't hold it all. We've held it all. Kelly Mack will tell you, we hold the doctrines better than anybody. I'm real proud of that, by the way. I'm real proud of that. So when we're in here teaching you stuff, this is the stuff. This is the stuff. You're not going to get it anywhere else. You might get pieces of it here and there, but we're teaching you the stuff. Jump in here. As Maria Bartiromo once said, buy this with both hands. All right, 1 Timothy. Yeah. No, it's Titus. Let's go to 2 Timothy 4. I'm trying to keep it all in order. We just flip back, because I want to do this quick. Didn't want to spend this much time on either one of these items, because I want to get into prophecy a little bit. Y'all watching the news? No? Girl, you no. You don't want to know what's going on. You got to know. It tells you to watch always. Jesus said, watch always. Jesus said, watch always. 2 Timothy 4 and verse 1. In the presence of God and Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead, and in view of His appearing and His kingdom, I give you this charge. Preach the word, be prepared in season and out of season, correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and careful instruction. So I do this, and people are like, you can't do that. Well, okay, whatever. I was told to do this. Correct, rebuke, encourage. For the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Okay, I'm not picking on anybody. I mean, I know everybody thinks so when I say that. I've been through 5 tranches of people who were full of internet heresies and could not be disabused of them. I have been told by Prophet Niece at least 50 times that I need to stop what I'm doing and research each and every one of these heresies to prove they're wrong. Frankly, that's all I would do. That's all I would do. So, do you want me getting revelation and teaching you good stuff, or you want me having to be your research assistant? Because let me tell you something. If I got to be your research assistant, somebody got to pay me for that. I mean, and I don't mean a little bit. All right. For a time will not put up with, instead they will, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. But you, keep your head in all situations. And I'm applying that to you. Keep your head in all situations. Endure hardship. Do the work of an evangelist. Discharge the duties of your ministry. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. 2 Timothy 2, verse 14. I mean, this is not exhaustive. This is not exhaustive. I'm just kind of hitting this, and I hit the surface of this a couple months ago. Keep reminding them of these things. Warn them before God against quarreling about words. It's of no value, only ruins those who listen. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a workman who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. Really dig into the Bible. We've got tons of books like this one. Avail yourself of this stuff. Really get in here and learn this stuff. How many of you are experts on the rescue? I mean, right now, if I was you, I would be an expert on the rescue. We got a great book on there. I could probably triple its size right now with new things that have come up. But you know what? The Lord's already given me the next 3 books I'm going to write, and that's not one of them. You want the new Revelation? The old one's good enough, right? Avoid godless chatter, because those who indulge in it will become more and more ungodly. Their teaching will spread like gangrene. Among them are Hymenaeus and Philetus, who have wandered away from the truth. They say the resurrection has already taken place, and they destroy the faith of some. Nevertheless, God's solid foundation stands firm. With this, sealed with this inscription, the Lord knows those who are His. So this is not new. This is not new. This kind of stuff has gone on just because it's on your computer screen instead of in a scroll. It makes no difference. This has gone on before. People write and say whatever they want to, and if you're not grounded in the truth, you won't pick up the little clues to know it's wrong. There's always the little clues to know it's wrong. But if you're not grounded in the Word, you're going to read over the little clues. You don't want to read over the little clues. That's when you go, hey, I'm out of here. This is not good. You know, have you ever opened up something on your email and your browser comes on and says, hey, this is bad. You don't want to be here. Right? Okay, well, you got to have that in here, that you know the Bible enough that when someone's going along, like I'll give you one, people want to say that the U.S. is Babylon. Okay, if you know who the U.S. is, that's your clue to get out of here. Back out, close, move on, because there's nothing in there that you're going to get of value. All right, First Timothy 6. So for those of you who can go just a little bit longer on Rev Media, I really want to do the prophecy. This is my last one on this, by the way. 1 Timothy 6, verse 3, if anyone teaches false doctrine, does not agree with the sound instruction of our Lord Jesus Christ and the godly teaching, he's conceited, understands nothing, has an unhealthy interest in quarrels, controversies, quarrels about words that result in envy, strife, malicious talk, evil suspicions, and constant friction between men of corrupt mind who've been robbed of the truth. Just there's no need for any of this stuff. Just let it go. I'll give you this. Flip back to 5 verse 17. I want to talk about prophecy. Y'all like prophecy? Mm-hmm. You want to make sense of what's going on right now? There was a clue. It was in front of our face the whole time. I saw it 2 days ago. It's like, oh man, how did I miss that? All right. I think 3 or 4 of us have decided that this is a made-for-TV war. Right. I think a bunch of us have decided that already. All right. So, 1 Timothy 5, verse 17. The elders who direct the affairs of the church are worthy of, especially those whose work is teaching and preaching. For the Scripture says, do not muzzle the ox while it's treading out the grain, and the worker deserves his wages. Do not entertain an accusation against an elder unless it is brought by 2 or 3 witnesses. There you go with that. And so many have been brought against me with no witnesses, and then it's supposed to all be true. All right. Now we're going to shift into prophecy. Now, I want to just turn to Daniel. Daniel, great book. Daniel is the keys to I say the keys to most. Daniel is a very important book. I think I did a message a couple of years ago on the key of David. You cannot understand prophecy without understanding the key of David. And the key of David goes like this. David was promised to always have a man ruling Israel. Always. No matter what. Rain, sun, shine, long as the earth spins around the sun and it spins on its axis and circles the sun, David's going to have a man on the throne. And David does have a man on the throne over Israel. But then you got to understand who Israel is. As long as you're looking at the Jewish state in Palestine, you're not looking at the right folks. The Jewish state in Palestine is the house or the tribe of Judah, which has half of Benjamin and a lot of the Levites in it. That's where you get Kohen. The Kohens are one of the tribes of Levi. All right? But when you're looking at Israel in prophecy, you're talking about the United States and Great Britain. And so people want to say all kind of things about the United States. And, well, you know, Britain was the lion because they're the lion, the British. Okay, well, look, I just got done with the lion study. It's at the proofer. I'm hoping to have it to you in 2 weeks when I come back. And I hope you're not disappointed in it, but I've worked on it for a long time. Every single country on earth uses the lion as a mascot. Okay, so how can the lion be in any one group of people when they all use the lion?
So do you on your shirt. Lion is Judah.
So one of the sections in this is the tale of 2 lions, because the devil's a roaring lion and Jesus is the... Yeah. Yeah, right. And there's words, right? I mean, you got like 6 different words for lion, and I'm not going to get off on that. But I want to talk about Daniel. If you look at verse 45, I want you to see this. Chapter 2, Daniel chapter 2. That's the only, we're not going to do a lot of verses, but I want to expound on the verses. Okay, so at the bottom of the verse, it's a long verse, the bottom of the verse, the great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar has this dream, and this is, like I said, Cindy had me a real nice one, but I don't know where it is. We've had too many moves. I don't know what happened to it, but it might have got tore up. I don't know. But anyway, here's Nebuchadnezzar's vision. He sees a statue with head of gold, arms and shoulders of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and feet of miry clay and iron mixed. And so I watched the late Brad Scott, a guy who I really like, run off on this wild thing about miry clay being Arabs. Wrong. 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 Brad Scott and Bill Cloud are the ones behind Perry Stone teaching the Muslim Antichrist. Wrong.
Come on.
Wrong. Wished I didn't have to be the fly in the ointment. Wished I didn't have to spoil the story. But Deputy Dog here's got to stick with the word and teach sound doctrine. That's not correct. And they have a million parallels and similarities, but that doesn't get it. I'm going to show you why in a minute. The dream is true. Okay, this dream is true. And Daniel's interpretation is trustworthy. What does that mean for you? It means you can take it to the bank. It means when people are telling you things that do not fit this, head on. Just head on. Go get you another up. You're in the wrong place. Back out of this. Viruses are going to invade your computer from where you're at. Just back out of there. And I'm talking about your head. All right. So if you go back to verse 31. You looked, O king, and there before you stood a large statue, enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly iron and partly baked clay, miry clay. They don't mix. Clay and iron do not mix. I don't care what radiator seal tells you about the radiator seal. The clay doesn't mix. It might stop that leak for a little bit, but it's coming undone. See, all the guys got that. Ladies had no clue what I was saying, but anyway. Hey, we've all put the stuff in there, right? Thinking, oh, maybe I can get away with it. Yeah, they got a head gasket sealer the same way with clay in it, right? Yeah, how long does that work? Oh, about 10 minutes. You never get done running it and fixing the car, and it's already oil. It looked like coffee. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, the gold were broken into pieces at the same time and became like chaff on the threshing floor in the summer. Then the wind swept them away without leaving a trace, but the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream, and now we will interpret to you, O king. You, O king, are the King of kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory, and in your hands he has placed mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds of the air. But we know he only ruled Babylon. He didn't rule China. He didn't rule Europe. He didn't rule Africa. And he didn't have a prayer about coming to America. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. After you, another kingdom will rise inferior to yours. So who sacked Babylon? The Persians. Still causing trouble. Next, a third kingdom on the bronze will rule over the whole earth. And that kingdom brought us euros. And we will be forever indebted to those wonderful people for that magnificent, culinary creation. But I have a Greek son-in-law, and he was ever so gracious and kind to tell me what seasonings make that wonderful flavor. Yes, we do, and I'll tell you all after the thing is over. All right. So, finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything, and his iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom, yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it. Even as you saw iron mixed with clay, and as the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. Look at verse 44. In the time of those kings. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed nor be left to another people. Will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision. Daniel's telling you it's true. Daniel was telling you the interpretation is trustworthy. So no matter what you are going to do with anything else, you've got to remember this is true. So now, you cannot have a prophetic outcome that does not have the 10 toes on that image. But you can't have 10 toes on that image that aren't connected to the feet, and you can't have 2 feet that aren't connected to the legs. Oops. People want to run over, hey, the 10 toes are this over here, the 10 toes are that over there. If they're not a part of the legs, they're not on the same image, right? Does that make sense? Can I move this forward just a little bit? Well, I don't need to point to it. I want to make sure y'all can see it in the back. So now, Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon were the head of gold. I no longer believe that the creatures in Daniel 7 have anything to do with this. God was not repeating himself on this, even though that's what I wrote in here. But what I wrote in here, even though I'm going to redo part of it, you can get this, by the way, if you're not at Hungry Hearts, you can get this on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any bookseller. It's offered for sale through Zulon Press, very small fee. If you're a Hungry Hearts member, you can pay a small fee for this. You can buy it from us. I don't think I have an accurate price list up here, but it's on the website. If you're a tither, we just give it to you. But anyway, everything I wrote in here concerning the Roman and Holy Roman empires is accurate, even though the justification I extracted from the wrong places. When I wrote this, I taught this exactly the way the Sabbath churches of God have always taught prophecy. And I have uncovered a lot of stuff that we just couldn't justify that way. We can still justify it, just not that way. All right, so you got to understand the empires as this comes down through time. This is what matters. Amen? Babylon, head of gold. Persia, arms and chest of silver. The Greeks, belly and thighs of bronze. Rome. You notice Rome is not one leg, it's 2 legs. So all of our lives, a lot of gray heads in here, we were raised up in this Cold War struggle between East and West. And that was pitched to us as the United States facing off the Soviet Union. Couldn't be further from the truth. That was all lies. It's about 2 legs of one Roman Empire. It's always been about 2 legs of one Roman Empire. Now, I'm not going to get into Revelation 13. I'm just starting that study right now. I'm going to blow your mind when I get there. All right? What I'm giving you next on Daniel 7 is going to blow your mind, but that's going to set the stage for Revelation 13. But I am going to tell you this. It's all about the Roman Empire and its eastern leg and its western leg. And they fight each other for supremacy, and at times they cooperate, but it's east and west is about the Roman Empire. How many of you have been watching the president of Ukraine this week? Did you notice the emblem on his shirt? It's the Iron Cross. Yeah, it's the Iron Cross. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what's this dude wearing the Iron Cross? It's got about 4 or 5 different variations for it, right? This guy's Jewish. What's a Jewish guy wearing the cross of the Knights Templar on his shirt? I'll tell you why. It's about 2 legs of one Roman Empire. He's in the east leg. This fight has more to do with the fact that the Ukrainian church left the Russian Orthodox Church and now says their head is the patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church. Means nothing to us. That's all Greek to us, right? But see, the Roman Empire has an image. And that image has a Caesar, and it has a Senate, and it has local units called dioceses with a magistrate over the head of them, right? The Catholic Church is set up in the image of the Roman Empire. with a pope as Caesar, with a college of cardinals as Senate, and with dioceses, with a bishop over them. And it's the same whether it's the east leg or the west leg. It's that same image. Now, a lot of y'all probably missed this, but a few years back, the patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church went back to the old pattern where the Pope in Rome is the first cleric of the realm and the Greek patriarch is the second cleric of the realm. And now that the Ukrainian church has come into the eastern leg, this fight is about Russia. Because Russia doesn't want to lose the territory, the GDP, the population, and you left the Russian Orthodox Church. All right, Russia is not a part of the empire, but Russia wants to supplant the eastern leg of the empire. This fight, East versus West, has nothing to do with us at all. That's why I'm praying we don't get involved. Because this is about two legs of one Roman Empire. You follow me?
Yep.
Now, the Holy Roman Empire had all kind of stuff. But the Holy Roman Empire is a mixture, and always has been. The barbarians overran Rome. All right, so we used to say, and I wrote in here, I wrote it in here, 10 main barbarian tribes overran the Roman Empire, but we could only find names for 8. 8 is not 10.
Yeah.
I may not be the best at math. I wasn't bad at it, but I can tell you right now, 8 is not 10. I could not find 2 more tribes to make 10. We looked at all kind of tribes, but they weren't constituent parts of the empire. Then we were going on the basis of Daniel 7, and the little horn plucks up 3. We could never find 3 plucked. We could find 2 plucked at a time. That's it. Inconsistencies drive you to look for more clues and more details because it didn't fit. But I'm going to tell you this. The barbarians, when they overran Rome, did not mix with the Roman citizens. Now see, Rome went all the way to Germany. A lot of folks don't know that. They say, oh, it stopped at the Danube. No, it didn't. Rome overran Germany. Lots of what you're talking about, the Dniester River, Rome went up into there. That's a part of Ukraine. There's Roman stuff up there. And when the barbarian tribes came in, that's the Roman word for them, right? I mean, these people had their own name, civilization, all the rest of it. Rome called them barbarians. They did not mix. I'll tell you how it didn't mix. If you were a Roman citizen in the province of Gaul and it got overran by the eastern branch of the tribe of the Franks, the Germanic Franks, you were ruled by Roman law, but the Franks who overran that were ruled by Frankish law. So they didn't even, you got adjudicated based on your own laws. They didn't even mix. The barbarians were not Catholics. They were Arians. Arianism was a type of Sabbath-keeping church, and so that didn't mix with the Roman Catholics, and so the Pope was always trying to find a champion to go and kill these people and make them back into the Roman Catholics that he wanted. And they found that champion in Charlemagne, Charles the Great, because he was willing to go over there and force all the Arians to accept Catholicism, and it was by the sword. So they would come in, strip everybody buck naked, make them get into this giant big pool to be baptized in a Roman Catholic church. It was so bad that even the Roman Catholic priest didn't like watching it. And so this is how that all happened. And this is how you get down to the toes. Do you realize that all the royal families of Europe right now are descended from this mix of Romans and barbarians? They're there. They're still there. They're still there with their land grants and their titles. All of this is still there. None of this goes. As a matter of fact, I did a little research on 10 of them, and they list all their titles. You do know there's a grandson to Kaiser Wilhelm in Germany, and his brother wants him to be made king. Because the politicians who run Germany are so corrupt, he's saying, we need to put somebody back in charge of Germany that actually cares about our country. And my brother cares about our country. So you can see that the monarchs are waiting to go back into practice after the democracies have screwed everything up. All right, I want to go to Ezekiel 28. Ezekiel 28. Going to look at a couple of verses. Ezekiel 28 and verse 3. Are you wiser than Daniel? Is no secret hidden from you? Think about that for a minute. Daniel's telling us this is trustworthy and true. Any prophetic interpretation that does not follow this right here is not good. Because what's he telling you? Are you wiser than Daniel? Now let's go back to Ezekiel 14 and verse 14. We'll come up here to verse 12. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, if a country sins against me by being unfaithful, and I stretch out my hand against it to cut off its food supply and send famine on it and kill its men and their animals, even if these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they could save only themselves by their righteousness. Or if I send wild beasts, and they leave it childless, and it becomes desolate, so no one can pass through because of the beast. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, even if these three men were in it, they could not save their own sons or daughters, they alone would be saved. Daniel's in pretty rare company. So if Daniel's telling you this is trustworthy and true, this is trustworthy and true. Now we have the history of the Roman Empire, and he said the Fourth Empire was iron, and that was their symbol. And all the barbarians used iron as their symbol. Matter of fact, the Lombards, who settled in northern Italy, their crown was an iron crown, the iron crown of the Lombards. And so, without getting through all of the details of their history, I know Kelly's taught on this some, I have too. The Lombards were a constituent part of the empire. And as I studied these Antichrists, and we're going to talk about that next, they had constituent territories. There are territories that are common to all of them. So, John, and we're going to go there, is calling Roman emperors Antichrist. That's why it can't be a Muslim Antichrist, right?
Come on.
If it's not a Roman emperor, it can't be an Antichrist. You know, Muhammad isn't going to come around until 612. This was going on in 90, 80, 90 A.D. This was going on long before there was a Muhammad. Muhammad ain't even born yet. His daddy ain't born yet. His great-granddaddy ain't born yet. There ain't nobody over there even thinking about Muhammad. And all of this is already going on. Let me tell you who the Muslim Antichrist benefits, though. It benefits the Pope, because he'll be the champion to oppose the Muslims. Why can I say that? Because through the Holy Roman Empire, that's who did it. It was the Roman Emperor, the Holy Roman Emperor, and the Pope who organized all the crusades against those heretic Muslims, right? I'm sorry, infidel, those infidel Muslims. So this is what benefits. This is what's coming back. This is where you get to Daniel 11, where the king of the north comes at the king of the south. It's back to crusade time. Who runs that? The Holy Roman Empire and the Roman Catholic Church. That's how that's always worked. Guess who's not involved in that? The United States. Israel's not involved in that. Well, the Jewish state called Israel in Canaan is called that. But the northern tribes, the U.S. and Great Britain, are not involved in that. Why? Because we're not there anymore. We're not there anymore. Oh, we're the greatest superpower ever been. Do you see what our leadership looks like right now? Well, all right, I'll take a rabbi trip for you. Isaiah 56. Isaiah 56. This is in the paper. Yep. Verse 1. This is what the Lord says. Maintain justice, do what is right for my... Okay, that word is Yeshua. My Yeshua is close at hand. My righteousness will soon be revealed. How's this righteousness revealed? When Yeshua comes back to rule the earth. It's revealed when he died on the cross. It's revealed when he rescues the saints.
Hallelujah.
The word Yeshua means rescue from your earthly enemies.
Come on.
This is a veiled reference to the rescue. We wrote it in the book, Come Away With Me. That's also available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all the internet booksellers. And it's also available from Hungry Hearts for a small fee, or if you're a tither, we give it to you. All right, so here's the rescue. All right, verse 9. Come all you wild beasts of the field, come and devour all you beasts of the forest. There's your three beasts being unleashed. The lion, the bear. Because what did he tell the bear? Rise up and eat your fill of flesh. Got 3 ribs in his mouth. The Lord's telling me this. He goes, did you like that? Did you like the 3 ribs in the mouth? The Lord likes to joke. Did you like that? And I'm laughing. Yes, I did like that, Lord. I did like that. I would like some beef ribs, actually, but they never run them on sale on Kroger. 3 ribs in the mouth. All right. So I thought that was, all right, what's the next verse? Israel's watchmen are blind. They all lack knowledge. They're all mute dogs that cannot bark. They lie around and dream, and they love to sleep. They're dogs with mighty appetites. They never have enough. They are shepherds who lack understanding. They all turn to their own way. Each one seeks his own gain. You've never seen it like this. There's been corruption since Adam. John Adams. There's been corruption in these United States the whole time. Nothing like what's going on right now. Why did I exclude Washington? Because his integrity is a legend. Like I said before about my own reputation, I can get my reputation back after somebody slanders me, but you only get one shot at your integrity. You have it or you don't. You break it once, it's done. You never get that back. You can't restore your integrity. So what's the lesson from George Washington? Hold your integrity. The rest of it will work out. The rest of it will work out. Now I want to go to John. 1 John 2, he talks about Antichrist. So while we're turning there, let me ask you a question. How many times can somebody slander Pastor Bill before it's time for them to go somewhere else? So one person says 1 back there. Okay, well I'm pretty lenient. I waited till about 3. Okay, so here's the way I put it in this last episode. No more pastor abuse, right? I'm serving free. I'm playing my heart out. I'm doing 2 tours of deacon service and 3 tours of elder service plus my apostle service, right? So, it's all free. How much pastor abuse do I got to take, right? All right, so, when I was a young minister 20 years ago, I would take more of it. But after a while, I realized that taking more abuse doesn't lead people to repentance.
Right.
It just causes more people to get stirred up. So in my old age, I'm kind of to the place like, okay, I'm teaching the best stuff out there, and I'm not saying that to be a braggart. I'm just saying that I'm teaching the best stuff out there, and if it's worth being here, well, I want you. I spent thousands of dollars advertising last year to get you in here, but if it's not worth it, okay. I don't want you to go, but if this isn't working, it's fine. I'd rather you stay. But you kind of get to a place where we're putting on the best worship in the world. No one even has a praise service besides us. And we're teaching the best stuff. If this ain't good enough, I don't know what to tell you. All right, let's talk about Antichrist. 1 John 2, verse 18. Dear children, this is the last hour. It's 2,000 years ago, right? It's 2,000 years ago, right? And as you've heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come. Mm-hmm. All right. So Kelly Mack's done a lot of research on this, a lot of very in-depth research on this. The Roman emperors required you to worship them, and if you didn't, they killed you. And when the Christians wouldn't do it, and they were trying to pin them down, they said you have to call Jesus accursed. That's why Paul says no one can call Jesus accursed by the Holy Spirit, because he's showing that this is the persecution they had to endure. Praise God, we don't have to do that. You don't have to go into a temple to the emperor where he's got a fire, he got holes for eyes and a fire inside, so it looks like he's got eyes of fire. Right, trying to make the statue live and talk, guy talking through the megaphone in the back. They did all that stuff to try to make it look real, and the Christians had to go in there and say, I'm not worshiping no stinking idol, and they cut your head off right there on the spot. You don't have to do that. Aren't you glad? You just got to fight Jackson traffic. which can be annoying, but it's not deadly, at least. Some of the time, yeah. All right, so this is why he's talking about them being Antichrist, because they were Antichrist.
Yes.
The emperors were so jealous they did not want you to worship Jesus, period. You had to worship the emperor. And this is how we know it's the last hour, right? He didn't know this was just the beginning and that the persecution was going to last, I don't know, 15, 20 years, and then another 15, 20 years after a brief respite, and then it was going to back off for a little bit, and all this other weird stuff's going to happen. They went out from us. Who are they? The ones who just went ahead and worshiped the emperor. But they did not really belong to us, for if they had belonged to us, they would have remained with us. But their going showed that none of them belonged to us. Okay, well, I don't really take that view. I've cried over everybody that's ever left, except for like 3 or 4, but that's because their behavior was so bad. It's like, oh, finally, good grief. But most everybody I've been sorry to see go, and I've never said that, oh, you didn't belong here. You did belong here, but you got to answer the calling. You got to answer the calling. You got to embrace the truth. What is the truth? That the Holy Spirit in you has begotten you as a literal child of God. Only people I've ever heard teach that are worldwide, come out of the Worldwide Church of God, founded by Herbert W. Armstrong. That's the only people I've ever heard teach that. That's it. You got to understand that. That's the most important thing going. That's why you can't worship the emperor. Because you got the Holy Spirit. You're a begotten Son of the living God. You can't fall away. That's like the most important thing ever, right? And then you're told to take that seed of the Holy Spirit, and the Greek word is sperma, right? Same meaning as the English word. You've got to fan it into flame. You've got to fan it into flame. This is important. This is what's valuable. And then you've got to learn the truth about the other things. Sabbath and holy days, and you've got to be able to see in this system the Antichrist. And you've got to realize that those 10 toes are not the crown on the beast in Revelation 13. Those toes are human kings. Those toes are 10 human kings. They'll come from that mixture of Romans and barbarians. Habsburg comes to mind, right? Hohenstaufen comes to mind. Hohenzollerns come to mind. The Bourbons, right? The Bourbons aren't in France anymore. They're in Spain. Did you realize that? King Philippe is a Bourbon from France. They got ran out in the French Revolution. They went down to Spain and took over down there. You got a royal family in Greece. Did you know you had a royal family in Greece? You got a royal family in Greece. You've got a royal family in Poland. You've got a royal family. You've got a king of Norway. You've got a king in the Netherlands. You've got a king in Belgium. All of these countries are the mixtures of the Romans and the barbarians. There's 10 of them. Isn't that convenient? Oh, how about that? There's 10 of them. I spent like 2 mornings just researching this. You know, where are the modern kings and the monarchs? They don't want to call the king of Prussia. It took me a while because, you know, I don't know German. And so they call him M. Prussen. M. Prussen. And I'm like, what does that mean? That's just kind of crazy. I just let it go. And after a while, Prussen. And then I saw something about Prussia in German, and it said Prussen. I'm like, oh, he's king of Prussia. Now, how many of y'all ever read any of Bill O'Reilly's books? Did any of y'all read Killing Patton? No, it wasn't a book. Oh. That wasn't in that book. I got a book on Prussia. And in the opening of the book, it's got the U.S. Defense Department declaration that Prussia is dissolved as a political entity and will never be again. And that there can never ever be another king over the political entity known as Prussia. All right, it's in one of my books on the Prussian. I have to look it up. I didn't find the book. I have no clue. But I have the book. I can find it when I get a chance. Okay, but here's the thing. It's still there. It doesn't matter what the U.S. Defense Department said at the end of the war because it's still a state in Germany. And he's still got the title to it. See, the titles don't go away. Why don't the titles go away? Because the Catholic Church is in the image of the Roman Empire, and they keep the image of the beast alive. Oh. This goes all the way back to Justinian, Emperor of Rome. The Catholic Church was set up to keep all the Roman records, to teach all the Roman law. As a matter of fact, anytime there was a controversy in the Holy Roman Empire days, they had to call in the Catholic clerics with the records to explain to them in Latin. I don't care if you're in Germany, I don't care if you're in Austria, I don't care if you're in Slovakia. All your stuff got decided according to Roman law in Latin, and the Catholic priests held all that stuff. Charlemagne formed the Catholic universities and monasteries to preserve Roman law in his day. Justinian did it in Justinian's day. Otto the Great did it in his day. I'll tell you how big this goes. Charles V, the Austrian emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, went so far, since Spain was one of his possessions, is to use the Catholic Church to set up the Antichrist system in the New World from Spain. Think about this for a minute. When did they go? Mom's peeps were brought over there in 1563 to bring the Catholic Church to St. Augustine, Florida, after Ponce de Leon conquered it. So Ponce de Leon conquers it in 1525. The Antichrist, Charles V, comes into power in 1530, and he sets up the Catholic domination and the creation of the Antichrist system in the New World. And her peeps were one of the first ones sent over here in the 1560s to implement that plan. Crazy, huh? Crazy. So why do you think all the Nazis fled down to South America? Because the Antichrist system's already in place. All they got to do is plug in. They were running the Antichrist system on its last big blowout is Nazi Germany, and so they need a place to hide. So what do? They just go plug into the system in the New World because it was already ready to go. Crazy, isn't it? Now we're looking at it play out again. So the result of this war, did you watch? Have you been watching? Did you see that Germany now is going to rearm? Germany's going to rearm. We're back. They're going to rearm. Okay, let me tell you a novel feature about the Holy Roman Empire. To be Holy Roman Emperor, you've got to be crowned King of Germany. The original 7 electors, 4 of them are duchies, or dukes. They don't call them that in Russia. They call them, in Germany, they call them something else, but the English is duke. 4 dukes of the realm and 3 Catholic bishops. They form the original 7 electors. You like that? That's how they decide when there's not a male heir who's going to be King of Germany, so they can have a Holy Roman Emperor. This system is still in place. It didn't go anywhere. We've had the American intermission, and it's about coming to a close because all of our leaders are lazy dogs, only interested in their own self-gain, and they're selling our country down. Now, the Chinese aren't going to go for this. You see that, right? You clearly see that when this world system comes and the mark of the beast and all that happy stuff, the Chinese aren't going for it. You can clearly see the Russians aren't going for it.
Right.
So that sets up the battle of Armageddon between the Holy Roman Empire, Russia, and China. Incidentally, that's exactly what it says in the book of Daniel 11, and that's exactly what it says at the end of Revelation. I think it's chapter 17, when all of these armies come together for that big battle. So you see it clearly shaping up in front of your face. Okay, the Apostle John couldn't know all that because all this history hadn't happened. He only had this vision from Daniel, and he had to try to make sense out of what he was given. But let me explain something to you. The difference between Daniel and John is this. Daniel is living in Babylon, seat of the ancient pagan mystery religion. All right. They are practicing demon possession in Babylon. All right. You ready for that? John is looking at a future. So John is living in a Greek world, this Hellenistic empire with those great Euro meat, and he's looking at a future. So he's talking to us in a Greek language which doesn't have all the paganism hidden in it, like the Hebrew does. You got to dig for some of this stuff back up here in Daniel's time. We've got to take the paganism from this in Daniel, and we've got to interpolate that into the modern warfare described in John. I'll tell you what's coming next. Widespread pagan religion, complete with demon possession. That's what's coming next. I want to thank you for watching. We'll do this again next week.